Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday, February 26th meeting of the York City Historical Architectural Review Board. Call to order. Zumbrum.
Yes.
Schermeyer.
Here.
McLean Gross, no. Gifford.
Here.
O'Brien, no. Santiago, no. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes of the previous meeting? If so, can someone make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I call for a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have one case tonight, 101 North Newberry.
That's us.
That's you.
We are back again.
Thank you guys for coming out. So last time the goal was, just to kind of go through last time, we're looking to add a window. The drawings, I guess, were not sufficient, so we got some drawings.
Are they matching what I have up on the screen? Because I couldn't.
That's what I have as well, and I think he might even have some supplemental photos as well.
Questions okay at this point?
Yep, ask questions.
So there is currently and my fellow members can step in with regard to this comment, but there is a horizontal, I guess, mullion, probably a frame piece that you might call it, that's in line with the top of the entrance door. The existing sort of storefront arrangement has this horizontal piece to it. Okay. Presumably that was to separate the storefront glass on the bottom, the larger plate, from the what was probably leaded glass up at the top, some kind of like maybe transom situation. Okay. I guess the question is, are we okay with this, with that element going away and this just being one large opening and one large window?
I think the proportions of it, all the other elements of the house have more of a vertical proportion to them in the opening. So I think this with some modifications to it would work better. I see if it, for example, first of all, it's probably going to need some kind of center mullion, I would assume, to carry the floor load. Is this house, do you know if it's spanning side to side or front to back?
That's a good question. I would imagine front to back.
The span of because you're going to need a structural lintel, and you're going to need a mullion, probably a structural mullion or something, at least one in the middle.
Right.
We were given these examples, and you can see how, for example, especially this one, there's more vertical proportions with a center mullion and a trans.
Okay.
This one, I would argue.
Is it okay if I take a look at it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Joe just handed this. This one, I would argue, the center window really balances the proportions of the bay window below. Yes, it's one large opening, and it probably was subdivided at one point. At some point, somebody came along and replaced it, but it works a little okay because the transom's still there, and it kind of balances that element, and this balances that vertical element. So I think this, with some modifications, there's one that I saw, it's a Georgian maple. I just saw it on the way in, but I stopped at the light and I could not snap the photo. I passed them thousands of times.
Okay.
But something like that also, this may be modified with either the sill level slightly lower, or at the very least, you're going to need a center mullion, I would think, just to support that.
Is that something that we can do like aesthetically through the window, like inside the panes of the glass? Or is that something that we have to, like, two separate windows inside of one opening to create that?
It could be something that's applied to the outside, like a simulated divided light, though a mullion usually looks more structural. I still think you're gonna need some kind of lintel or something up there, because you have this load,
You mean going across the top?
yeah.
For sure.
You have
Yeah,
this
yeah.
load that has to be carried,
Yeah,
and
whether it's a.
you might need something vertical, at least one element vertically, which would be a mullion, and two separate show windows with lower sills. Again, kind of like they've done there.
Okay, if that's what we have to do, I mean, I don't.
See, that was,
Yeah, well, and I do just want to quickly apologize. I was looking, unfortunately, at the incorrect building elevation with the comment I was talking about with I was looking at the barber shop property.
Okay, gotcha.
But it's the 101 North Newberry Street address is marked as some of the, as the, so this is 103, okay,
yeah.
so it's marked improperly on our sheet here. But at any rate, I am in agreement with what Mark is talking about as well.
If that, I would say, the owner, Ron, I mean, he may be okay with like an SDL grid to like simulate it. I doubt he would want to do two separate with a structural in between.
You may have to do a structure in between. You get an engineer to look at it, because you're gonna need something to carry that load up above.
Right,
Because you're spanning almost 8 feet.
Yeah, I think they need structural.
definitely.
But until we have approval, we can't go in and start ripping the thing apart to see what's in there.
Right.
And that's the point. And certainly, they need structural support.
But ultimately, your design's gonna change depending what you find you have to do structurally in there.
So, I mean,
That's gonna affect your design and ultimately what you know. I mean, I agree, you can't, but an engineer might be able to get an idea of which way it's spanning now and what they would have to put in there for a lintel to carry the loads before you order and procure anything, because once you get in there and start tearing it apart, you know, yeah, and you find you need a lintel of X size and how you put that in there and how it affects the appearance on the outside, you know, there's all those
Also,
issues.
respect, we're getting into building permit type of stuff. We need.
Right, and this is part of the permit process, so really what we need to be giving final approval on is the final permit drawing, so that we're approving the final configuration. And, you know, like I said, this is a step in the right direction. I mean, yes, you could subdivide it with simulated divided lights that give more of an appearance, or give an acceptable appearance, give more of a vertical appearance to the elements, which I think would work better. But again, I think you're gonna have to address the lintel structural issue somehow.
so I will say I'm not an engineer, but quite a few times a year we do this type of project, and we create openings much larger than this. And, you know, we put the headers and the jack studs and the sills in place. And after inspection, you know, third party inspects it and they approve it, that it's structurally sound.
Okay.
So in a perfect world, we would like to use that entire opening and get as much visible glass as possible.
Right.
That would be our goal. If an engineer says otherwise, then it might toss the project, unfortunately. But I would say,
Have you talked to the permits office yet to see what they require?
you mean like going through the building permit process?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because technically we're part of the permit process.
Okay.
And ultimately what we give final approval on, it's been loosey the way it's been done. It's
Yeah.
been loosely, done, but if we approve something before it's, ultimately our final decision should be made on the drawings that are submitted for permit, because that's where you know you have a pretty good idea with what you're gonna build.
Yeah.
Like this kind of situation where you have the vertical elements, the sill level almost goes to goes a lot closer to the floor. You even have the transoms above. This one has the transoms above, it carries that line, and the storefront around. And really, I would argue you have, this is almost a square or vertical element, because this is reading as this whole element, rather than this, everything is vertical and this is inserting a horizontal element. So, if you can detail the window, dress it up at the very least, so that you're getting more vertical proportions out of it, it's gonna be better in keeping. If he can afford to lower the sill
Right.
and get more of a show window look, again, like is happening here, it's gonna look historically more appropriate for the house.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, just trying to be cost conscious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I
yes,
guess-
you can do this kind of thing out of simulated divided lights.
Right, yeah. I
I'm
think
just
he'd be
saying
okay
you
with,
might need something structurally in the middle there anyway.
right. If we need something structured in the middle, the project's probably not gonna, I wouldn't do it if I was wrong. The whole point is to get more, he already has some light coming in, trying to maximize as much as possible. Logistically, I know this is part of the permitting process. In order for us to get like exact dimensions and the proper way to get an engineer out there to look at all this stuff, I should pull off casing off the wall and, you know, it's like 100-year-old casing. I just don't want to make a mess in this guy's barber shop and then say, oh, sorry, we can't even do the project at all anyways. So I'm kind of in like a logistical,
Right.
Not
right.
sure where-
Yeah, I can understand that. It's a little more extensive than just a window replacement, because you're changing the size of the opening.
right,
And changing the size of the opening under the Uniform Construction Code does require a building permit, whereas you're replacing the window sash in a residential structure doesn't require a building permit under the UCC.
Right.
Because you're changing the size of the opening.
Yep.
And unfortunately, our code official is not here. When Steve Buffington used to attend, you know, he'd tell you exactly what you need, that kind of thing. So, you know, we don't have one here.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have one here tonight to give you that kind of guidance.
okay.
So I guess my next suggestion is, if you can talk to the BCO or somebody in that office about what the next steps are before we give you final approval, and then tweak this, you know, based on the comments. I mean, do you have anything else to add, Blake, or anybody else, or?
Is there any way that you guys could say, hey, if the engineer says that you can do this, we give you the go-ahead? That way we can at least, like,
I think we
That
do
makes
want to see a drawing of the final configuration. You know, again, whether you're doing simulated divided lights or
The system is
whatever.
not set up in that way. I mean, the system is set up so that without great expense, the applicant can come in here and, you know, ask for advice regarding architectural things. For us to, you know, it's.
And the system's set up-
It's improper.
the system's
to
set
make
up
the
that they're-
Building permit drawings.
Joe, the
At
system
that
is set up
expense.
that there should be a consultant, a historic preservation consultant, that's the consultant for the HARB board that we haven't had for 5 years, that the applicant meets with first. The system's set up that the BCO is on the board to talk with the applicant. That isn't here right now. You know, that, when Steve was here, that happened regularly. Now, when Steve retired, it's not happening. So, you know, we're trying to do our best to help the applicant when we fully don't have what we need to operate properly. So, and ultimately, yeah, for us to approve it, we need to see, if you're gonna change it with simulated divided lights, we wanna see what you're gonna be doing. And, you know, you could get in there and start, you know, I'm just recommending to you, you should talk to the permits office first, because you're gonna need a permit changing the width of that opening.
and when the permit
Know
office
what
is,
you're doing before you order your window.
they're going to say, fill out an application, pay the fee. So then we go through that process, and then we have to start somewhere.
Right.
So then we should start here to see if we can even do the project.
Well, we're telling you, you design properly, we would, you know, at least I would approve it with some of these tweaks. I can't speak for the rest of the board.
Just address the rest of the board. What the manufacturer here is planning to do is to, let's talk about the sill and the cornice above.
Okay.
What you were planning to do, because right now you got two separate ones. But what would you do in that case regarding those two items?
You mean as far as like what we would do above the window and below it?
Yes, because now you have two separate cornices up there.
Right. I personally, it's hard for me to think through like a historical lens.
No, but it would be one.
It would be one continuous piece, yep.
Continuous one, and
Use the
would
same
it be-
style of trim the whole way
would it be
across.
Exactly like the makeup of whatever is there?
Yes,
So you would use what is there and reproduce it in one length.
in one length.
And how about the sill?
I would take the sill and replicate it with the exact same thing, except across the width of the bottom.
Okay, well, let's talk about the two sides. In my drawing, there's no supports shown on the sides, other than, it's a full window. Right now, there's 1x4s going up the sides.
Yep.
And, that they may end up having to stay.
Correct.
We don't know yet if they do, but,
Right now, it's just 1x4s covered with metal.
right.
So pull off the boards and put up,
What I've shown
yeah.
is basically, taking those off all the way to the aluminum side, to the edge of the aluminum side.
Yep.
That is also that is out there. But, I just want to go on record as saying, to ask for building permit plans is an unfair and inappropriate burden to put on this property owner. He's here to talk about what this thing is gonna look like from an architectural standpoint. And, we're telling you that. We've told you how we would do it architecturally. And I'm hoping that you can consider the architectural version of this plan that we're looking at, without getting into which way the beams are running, and, whether we're gonna be able to keep this window from.
And the only reason that's brought up is because it will change the appearance of what you ultimately finally do. And we need to approve what you ultimately finally do, because you're doing a major facade change to this building.
Can we get an approximate size of the lintel, replacement lintel, composite lintel that would span
It would
the opening
be,
itself?
94 inches.
Okay. And can we have that indicated on the drawings that are submitted at least to the board, so that we could indicate
they're
how that
they're
would?
on the drawing there.
He has 7'10" on the drawing.
Well, is that what the actual size of the glass is gonna be based on the actual designed lintel to span the opening?
So when we measured the opening, we measured that from the inside,
Uh-huh.
from the inside portion of the window frame to the other side.
Okay.
Right, so that, there would be some type of a frame,
Correct.
so that's not the glass that you're.
That's not the glass size. Yeah, that's closer to the actual opening size, in between the studs.
Okay.
As any window is, there's a frame around it, I don't know whether it'd be an inch or 2 inches or what that might be.
Usually about 2 and 3/4 inches usually.
So we're okay architecturally with this?
I'm not.
Oh, what do you want to see?
No, it's a major facade change that, it's going in the right direction, but it's inserting a horizontal
Right,
element
so you
in
want,
a facade. It's changing the proportions and the style of facade. It does not meet the design guidelines or the Secretary of the Interior standards.
So-
Some of the things like the way it's being cased and things like that, if we add other simulated, whether they're simulated mullions or whatever, it could be, by some of these examples, by this example that I showed you, it could be something that fit with the design of the facade. I mean, Blake, you know what
right,
understand what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
So you want-
You can express it.
you want
better.
more,
Yeah,
okay, but,
because this is,
yeah, I get, it, but
this is
we're,
out of scale proportion to the facade. Again, nobody is referencing the design guidelines. It's exactly what, like Frank Grumbine's scathing review, which he sent me, in the last couple weeks, of the way this board operates, it's not referencing any of that. It's all in those design guidelines.
and we can't tell him what that depth should be.
We would have to design tweak the opening and design it a little more, yeah. And what I'm saying is ultimately, what you have to do to support that thing and where those joists and all are gonna affect the outward appearance of this thing. I mean, we could maybe approve that they start work, but then come back with a final design based on our recommendations.
Because he already said, he thinks the customer won't want a division
And
down
what
the
I'm
center.
saying
And
is, he may not have any choice.
We had advised the applicant when he first came in that when you make this kind of change, you really would have to have an engineer's approval of the concept, and that probably would have the vertical element somewhere there. And you know, we appreciate the sketching here. This is you know, a better rendering than what he came to talk to us about. And the problem is, I understand he doesn't want to spend money. No one wants to spend money. That's the first thing all the applicants say. But without having the assurance that from an engineering standpoint, any modification of that opening to that degree can be done without additional structural improvements, we can't say, yeah, fine, that looks like a nice sketch.
Does it
I
have
hope
to-
that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but I understand what you want. But we had advised the applicant from the start, he needs to make sure that an engineer can provide an assurance that this is a safe project.
And that's how it's going to look, because it's going to affect the appearance. I think my issue is not only the horizontality of this, which it could be changed. I mean, it could be dressed up as it is, but structurally what's happening in there may change the final appearance of the window, and we need to approve it, you know, the final appearance of what you're going to do. And there's so many what ifs here at this point. And it is a major change of the facade of that building. So,
Well-
and there are ways, like I said, to do it.
We're okay with changing from 2 windows to 1. We are okay with that concept.
If it can be done. I have a lot of, no, I don't know that I'm necessarily, if it's 1 window and the 1 window is possibly divided in the center and you have more vertical proportions or something to it, again, similar to this one, yeah, I think that could work with facade. Similar to this one at George and Maple, yeah, that could work with facade.
Except,
We're talking about an 8-foot opening. It's a garage door opening. That's all it is. It's the
And
same as a
that's
garage.
pretty
A garage
substantial
door
for the
has
proportions of
supports
this
over it.
facade.
You know,
in this house.
this is not a major structural situation. That can be constructed, I guarantee.
You're talking 40% of the facade of the house.
that's what-
But then
that's what we're
come back with
talking
a drawing that
Then that's
shows
fine,
it
but-
more like what you're showing
Don't
here.
tell me structurally I could not build that, because it can
I'm
be
not
built
telling you
differently.
structurally you could not build that, but you're going to have to lintel it somehow that's going to affect the appearance
I don't
of what's
agree.
on the outside.
I don't agree.
Yes, it will.
How? You can't put a header over top of that.
You
and-
can put a header over top of it. Where is the header going to sit in proportion to the rest of the opening, et cetera?
Well, there's already a header in there. So,
There are headers that
There's 2.
support the 2 existing openings, but those,
just
you're
wanna-
opening up the full span of this facade. That's what we're talking about in terms of structural intervention.
right.
So there's gonna be a new member, there's gonna be a new size to it to support that new load.
Adding 2 feet, I don't think that's, I'm sure that we can, like structurally it'll hold. Literally, it's only a 2 feet
Yeah,
gap.
and that's again, we're not casting doubt on that as a concept. We're just saying it needs to be designed further before we can verify that this is exactly what we need to approve. Like, 'cause we're giving you an approval, hypothetically.
Yeah,
Like, we're voting on an approval. of
I'm
this
just trying to figure out like how to, we already have a bunch of fees included. I'm doing all of this work for free for the guy, and it might not even work out. But if we said, hey, now we got to get an engineer involved,
And again, you may not have to get an engineer involved with it, but somebody's gonna have to figure out the size of the lintel and then produce a drawing on how that affects your opening and provide the proportions of the opening that are a little more
So-
vertical.
if
Like
behind
on
this,
here, or on this one at Georgia and South, and you'll have
is
something that will work better
a
with the
lintel,
facade, that will
and
keep the
here
proportions
is
of the
a
facade.
lintel. Okay.
There are design guidelines on the website
Prop
that
up,
are
the
80
ceiling
some
on the
pages
inside, right,
that
all the way
are
across.
one of the documents that we're
Remove
supposed to be
both
using,
of
and
them,
there's stuff in there
put
that
in a
discusses in detail
continuous
window
one
openings and changing openings.
that an
and proportions
engineer
and facades and that
signs
kind of
off
thing.
on.
They're on the website.
I don't see how that,
And so
It's
that's the
gonna
kind of thing we're
change,
supposed to follow, and all of our decisions are to be tied back to.
the way this
Like I said,
looks.
it's loose,
That's just the thing, is it might,
you know, it's been loose the
Hmm?
last
and the thing
5
is,
years.
we can't say how
but-
deep that continuous.
So-
Ultimately, it's a
Right.
major change of that facade, and what I'm concerned about is if we don't do it right, then it opens the door
Because we
to
might
not be
anybody
able to
doing
remember.
Because
whatever.
we don't,
Yeah, I
Especially
understand.
if it
we don't
has to
know
come
how
through
this
our
house is
approval.
I
constructed.
know, I understand. It's a bummer because all the neighbors are like putting in vinyl windows
This
and
could
Home
be a
Depot doors
double
and,
brick,
And again,
you know, like we're
that's,
trying to follow the rules and that's,
like a lot of
I
houses
know.
it's a
are.
dilemma that we're
Or
trying to
the
figure
brick.
out here.
that is an administrative
it
issue.
could be there is no
with the
brick.
city. Yep.
Framed, it could be brick.
Right.
Yeah.
So in order to proceed with this project, there has to be some sort of vertical component to it.
Right now, it's a
And raise it
horizontal
up.
window, yeah, in a facade of vertical elements.
Is it, do you happen to know if there's brick behind this siding or if it's just a framed?
It's just
facade?
framed.
It's just a frame.
Just frame.
Yeah, I think it's probably a frame house with that originally had, I'd have to look it up in Google to see if it still has like the German lap
Is it just?
siding that's the same thing as sheathing.
Mhm.
There's probably was no finished siding, your sheathing, siding is your sheathing.
Yeah.
And no insulation or anything behind it, yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we'd still need some sort of designed.
But you've done that before, I mean, you did that with,
Certainly.
and put windows in, buildings and all like this before, and you can do it and make it proportionally work, changing the proportions of the openings, but it has to work with the aesthetics of the facade. And this is, the way you have it trimmed at the top and all that's fine, that would be acceptable. I think there should be some kind of casing at the sides, like there is casing on the existing window. If you even just took this element and you dropped it more to the floor and put a transom element across it, you might be able to successfully make it work proportionally with, a transom element and one larger opening.
Are you referring to above the window? Like, I guess I'm a little confused on that part.
Like this, like this.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
But then it's getting too expensive.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to be honest, the guy was not wild about just the ballpark price that I gave him. So getting engineers and stuff involved would probably be a no-go.
But I think without talking to the permits office, you don't know what they're gonna wanna see in plans review.
Right.
I mean, you don't know
We
that.
can't say that if we can't provide what you would approve of that window, we can't provide for it structurally, we'd have to come back here anyway. Why can't, if you have an architectural problem with the window as shown, let us know what it is. And if it's about the structure, if we can't produce it, we won't do it.
Yeah, we'll just not do the project then. I'm just trying to figure out aesthetically what we're allowed to do. And then from there, take that to the proper person who would say if we can't even do it. That's our goal.
And, if the architecture of it does not work, I understand, and I will accept that, but, I think we can reproduce what is on there. And if you have a problem with what is on there, tell us what it is. And, we can work with that.
But again, I think it has to have more vertical proportion to it rather than horizontal. It's too modern for this facade.
So keeping the customer's goal in mind, as much glass as possible, what's the limited amount of vertical components that we could add to this that would fulfill?
I would have to look at options. Two verticals proportioned properly might work.
Like SDL grids,
Yeah,
every third?
that might work, yes.
Okay.
But, without seeing alternatives, I don't know. And then ultimately, if we approve something like that, and when you get into it, you have to change that appearance of it, then it needs to come back to us.
I'll come back 10 times if I got to. I just want to know, like, what's
We're
next.
talking about what the 131 picture is basically,
Well, that may very well have had a center
may have, but.
division at one point.
That's what we want.
They probably just have that vertical component because I couldn't get
Well,
past
and
that part.
the era of the facade and the era of the building is different, and this wide window is this way because it carries the proportions of the bay window above. So that's, and this is a more early 20th century facade. It's probably first decade of the 20th century when they started to go to more larger openings because the technology would allow them to do that. And so they changed those proportions. The Noss house at Penn and King is a good example of that. But I don't necessarily think you need a transom to make the proportions work on here. It might help, but I don't think you need that. But it needs, rather than an element like that in a facade of this, it needs to be either simulated divided lights or something that give it more of a vertical orientation.
And that'd be simple. It's not a huge add-on to add SDL grids to a window, but it is additional cost. But
so I mean, right now, the simplest way would be to say 2 verticals, but without seeing it, I can't say for certain.
Would you be able to produce visuals that show just an option with a single vertical and another option with 2 verticals as he's describing, and just come back and we can probably weigh in more on something like that.
maybe between now and then, we can get someone to say, yeah, you can do this if you put in the right headers.
And you might even be able to make it work if one of your horizontals aligned with the right jamb of the one window above and the other one aligned with the right jamb of the other window below. And there you have 2 verticals that are of equal width framed by a narrower center vertical. And that way you're keeping those proportions and you're introducing what's clearly an add, but it's reflecting the lines of the windows and the buildings above it. So it's
I see what you're
tying
saying.
it all
I
together.
missed that, I didn't understand.
So you're saying equal third grids, or like 2 vertical grids that would line up with.
I would say possibly line one of your verticals up with the left jamb of the center window above, and line the other one up with the right jamb of the far left window above.
Yeah.
So
You're kind of ghosting in the windows that are currently there.
Yes. Yes, you're kind of ghosting in, and you're relating to what is happening in the facade above. And then that leaves you with a narrower piece in the center, a narrower window in the center,
Yeah,
but that's not inappropriate either.
I see what you're saying. So basically,
It's sort of wide, narrow, wide.
just kind of like putting an SDL grid, follow this through the center, right?
Mhm.
Correct. And then the same thing on the other side, and you have a narrower in the middle. I mean,
That would be a.
what's your thoughts on that, Blake?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It
Would that
would.
still be one pane of glass then?
If it's SDL, it would be one.
Yeah, it would be one big piece of glass.
You
Yeah.
could do wider SDL grids there.
Yeah, you can get up to an inch.
Yeah, I would do an inch.
I think you can do up to.
That's one way that would work.
Word,
Well, it depends on the brand of window, so that's a whole other.
full divided light,
Yeah, that's a whole
So,
other.
so the easiest way might be to,
SDL.
I mean, we could, I don't know if you want to, what the board wants to do, if you want to table it pending a sketch for that. I mean, you're going to have to cost that out for your owner and see if it even goes any further. And
Right.
I still recommend talk to the permits office to be sure you don't
Okay, I will.
something, because once you submit it for plans review, who knows what they're going to ask for.
Right.
That might affect what you're doing here.
So next step, probably go through submitting an application for like just a regular building permit.
Right.
It's probably a $35 fee, but I'll help them out. And then,
But once you cost it out,
Yeah.
you'll know, let's say, if everybody kind of likes that concept Is there any pens over here? Probably not much. If everybody kind of likes that concept, let's see, it would be something like this. So you're basically doing something like that. Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah.
So basically something like this. And once you cost that out, then you're gonna know.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
But before you order it, yeah, I just would advise you to just, you
So
then make a
that's
permit application
a
and see what
custom
else they
window.
want from you.
Okay.
Sure.
Usually during the
Well, it
permit
doesn't
applications,
choose-
like,
That's,
I tell them I'm gonna put a header in,
That's.
and then we do the work, and like the inspector comes out literally just to look at the header.
Trim elements are all still the same.
It's not really like an engineer. I mean, I guess the guy that,
I don't know that you need an engineer, sometimes they tell you they want to see that.
I'm not sure.
typically it's like, from my experience, and we do like 120-inch wide openings, it's just a guy that comes out and says, yep, I see you did the header, good job. And that's it. But would that be acceptable? It's not really like,
For us, it doesn't, that doesn't matter. I mean, if the city permits office or whoever is there at the time,
yeah,
whoever is manning it now, it's acceptable to them.
Just for your FYI, Sheldon Scott is the deputy director of permits and inspections.
So it would be really up to Sheldon.
Would they be able to reach out to Shelton without them going through the formal permit process?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll give you Sheldon's business card.
Okay.
And he's really good about, talking to people and, explaining what was here.
I can give them
My experience in
drawings.
residential is a lot of times the plans reviewers or the inspectors want to see your calc sheet. You can go to Myers and have them size a header,
Right,
but they want to see that calc sheet from Myers,
Okay.
put in their file that you've had it sized.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. Hey, we're getting somewhere.
What are we making?
I guess we're gonna table this until we see a sketch
Or we
covering.
could, we gave him a sketch.
Yeah, he's
Now,
got a
the problem
sketch.
is we don't have any firm documentation of it, but yeah,
Just stamp it. You guys can do it.
well,
Can we
True.
vote
Well, he can still say no.
to
We don't have- yeah.
approve it on the condition that more thorough documentation is provided once they have it?
yeah, we could approve it as amended and pending a final sketch as discussed, modified as discussed, something like that.
Yeah.
You want to make the motion, Blake?
Jeez. Yeah, I will, I'll make the motion that we approve the application as amended with the sketch showing the addition of two vertical elements. I don't know if we want to go further into detail about that. Two vertical elements to the larger proposed window.
Relating to the window jams above.
Right, related to and in alignment with the window jams above, existing window jams. Once further documentation is made, if that can also be provided to the city, I'll make a motion on those conditions.
I'll second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I call for a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That's fair, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah,
It's progress.
Thank you
We'll-
much.
We'll get it figured out.